Assalamu alaikum, Rabbi Isai. We are back with Hachazek Mishnah Yud Zayin. Shimon benoi oimer kol yomai godalti bein hachachamim v'lo matzusi laguf toiv mishtiko v'lo yamedrashu ha'ikr el ha'maise v'chol amar bedvorim mevi chet. So the Rambam, the Rabbeinu Yonah brings in the beginning the Rambam. The Rambam is Meirich in the Indian of Dibur. Why is it that a person should be quiet? Because most things that are said in the world are not worth being said. And he didn't find guf toiv, la guf toiv mishtika. It's better to stay quiet. I heard once, or I read once, that Rav Victor Miller was very makbid on this Mishnah. He said he was medayik that, scientifically, staying quiet, is a schus for longevity. It's mamish a helpful thing for the human body to just stop and be quiet. Very interesting statement. I don't remember what it was based on and how he proved it scientifically, but I do remember him saying such a thing. But again, let's go into the Rabbeinu Yonah over here. V'ra'isi v'hevanti Shimon benoi, Shimon, the son of Rabban Gamliel. Rab Shimon ben Gamliel, kol yomai gadalti ben hachachamim v'ra'isi v'hevanti b'chol amidas hachashuvois. And after all of the things that I was around, I found the best thing was shtika. Kvar perish harambam zal be'inyan shtika ki b'diber sheyesh la'adam nezek boy mikol tzad. He breaks it up into four chalakim. So the one that's nezek mikol tzad, oyim yesh revach mitzad echad v'hezek mitzad acher, or maybe even there is a maila mitzad echad but still a hezek mitzad acher. Lo yhutzor Rabban Shimon Gamliel lahazer b'zeh. For sure that that's not the point of the Mishnah, because there's a hezek. Ki kol adam yizar mimenu im sher mitzar nafshehu. If he's careful with his nefesh, he won't say something that has episatzad, even half a tzad of causing a nezek. Ela afilu b'dibur she'ein lo adam nezek klal v'kulei revach. The third of the chalakim of the Rambam. You have to. These are things that don't cause any damage to anybody, and you have to talk about them. Says Rabbeinu Yonah, that is the chiddush of Reb Shimon, that in those diburim, which are be'etzem mutter and even needed, a person shouldn't talk too much about it. Avada, dvarim betelim, which don't hurt and not maver, they don't make a difference, and they're not even needed for parnosa and asakov and stuff like that. You should mamish, ke'ilim. You should make yourself like a ilim. Chein Omer beYerushalmi. Omer Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish, Reish Lakish says, Ilo havina betura de Sinai, ba'ina trei pumi. If I was on Har Sinai, I would have said about myself that I would need two mouths. The kedusha that we experienced in Har Sinai, you can't use that mouth for anything else but Torah. But you need your mouth for other things. Halavai would have two mouths. That's what Reish Lakish said. And then he said, now that I see that we only were blessed with one mouth, it came out impossible for me to save myself from bad words, from things that are not supposed to be said or not needed to be said. Kol shkeni havelon train. How more so would it be an impossible feat to watch over two mouths? So it's better that we only have one mouth. He's trying to tell us here that a person should not be talking divrei seichel and dvarim shel hevlei olam. Right? Only divrei Torah. Shayu chachamim akdoshim oisim atzmo kiklei shores. The chachamim would make their mouths like a kli shores. She'ein mesimim b'hem dvarim shel chol. They wouldn't put any dvarim shel chol. Okay. Kach lahayu moitzim mipayim devarim shel chol. They wouldn't take anything out of their mouth that was a davar shel chol. V'hainu da'amri b'hasam b'gemara de b'nei ma'arav kol petitaya bishin bar miptitaya de'oraisa. All words are bad except for the words of Torah. V'yesh gerson. There's a gerson in the Gemara over there called kruvaya. Kruvaya bishin bar mikruvaya de'oraisa tav. Perush kruvaya charisha. The plowing. Right. So learn shekol advarim b'chol machshav she'adam mishtal b'hem ba'olam hazeh hakol hevel urus ruach levar machshav sator u'ma'aseh Hashem ki noirahu That's real chrisha. Mikrivaya deraisa. Yeah. So I'm not really 100% sure what the connection between plowing and talking is, but it's something to obviously be ma'ayin in. I don't have a pshat in that. But I want to share with you a chidush, which this Rabbeinu Yoin is actually quoted by the Orchaim HaKadosh in Parshas Pinchas. The pasuk says over here, Bnei Yisachar. We know Yisachar, Chomer Garem, Yisachar from all the Shvatim, represents Torah. So Bnei Yisachar Mishpacha Yisam Toila, Mishpachas HaToiloi. And Fuva, Lefuva Mishpachas HaPuni. So the pasuk, Lefuva, that's his name, Mishpachas HaPuni. The Torah added this letter Nun over here. So says the Orchaim HaKadosh. Very interesting. Lefuva Mishpachas HaPuni Yesh Lahoyer. Lama Hoysif es Ois She'ina Nivnis Ma'oisis Hashem. Why is the Nun here? The Nun is not part of that name. Where did the Nun come from? Ela Ramaz Lishar Malas HaMenuyim Ve'omroi Mishpachas HaPuni. It said Mishpachas HaPuni. I'm sorry. The Malas HaMenuyim Sham Ba'arboim U'Shmoina, right? The 48 Kinyani Ater She'em Miut Tzicho Miut Tzchoik U'Shar Nafim V'Dorim Le'elu V'hu Amr Lefuva Mishpachas HaPuni. Perish Fuva Hu Loshain Peh V'Hoysiv Loi Ois Vav Shehu Soid Eitz HaChaim, like the Torah, Yoser Al Shara Piyos Gam Ramaz B'Simchas HaOis Avav Lois Hei Loimar Soid HaChibur Hamidos Be'emtsois Eisak HaTorah. But what's with the Nun? Mishpachas HaPuni Perish Yitzarach Lefanoisoi Pnieh. We have to be mefanehim mimoisorois hamurgoshois, from extras. Gam mehaschoik, also to separate him from schoik umidvarim betelim. Ki hem moinei kiyum haTorah ba'adam. These things, schoik and dvarim betelim, are relinquish, move away a person from kiyum haTorah. Umatzasi lechasidei Yisrael, says the Orchaim HaKadosh. He's referring to the Rabbeinu Yoina. Shekosvu ki peh sheloim de Torah dinoi ke kli shares. A little bit of a different lashon. Dinoi ke kli shares. They gave the mouth of the loim de Torah a din of a kli shares. Asher yisharsu bom bakoidesh. Their misharis, the Rebbeinu Shalom bekoidesh, with their mouth ki ein kedusha ki kedusha sa Torah. There's no kedusha like the kedusha of the Torah. Velozeh also ledaber boy afilu divrei choil. Hagam she'ein bohem dvarim asurim. Even though there's dvarim that are not asur. Parnasa, it's not asur. And divrei hevel, it's not asur. But a person who's makdish his mouth, who learns Torah, b'nei Yisachar, they learn Torah, it's dvarim shel choil, his mouth is like a kli, is like kedusha sa Torah. It's kli shares. When my Rebbe quoted this Orchaim HaKadosh in Parshas Pinchas, he said it was during COVID. We had Chumash Shir during COVID, and he said his son asked him, Lefi this Rabbeinu Yoina, Lefi this Orchaim HaKadosh, would it be allowed to would a young man, a person who is kli shares, uses his mouth only to divrei Torah, would it be allowed to throw away a mask? It's tashmish kedusha, mamish tashmish kedusha. Put it on your mouth. But then he said, if you find me a Talmud Chacham that only speaks divrei Torah, mamish, maybe we can down on the shaila. But lechura, a Talmud Chacham, kedusha sa Torah, it's mamish kekli shares. V'hu masher ramaz b'maimer lefuva shehu peh he'omel b'Torah sheboy shechen chatzi shemo yizbarach, right? Because it's vav hey mishpachas hapuni perush tzorch lefanois mipiv kol. We're using that nun to show that the word is penia. He's mefana his mouth from everything. Chutz me hagois b'Torah ubazen nichlol mchel echad arboim mishmoin malas shem b'miut sicho b'miut tzchoik b'miut tainug v'chadoim lehem shebe'anaf hamoisorois. So you see, it's moiridik, this inyan of shtika, and by a Talmud Chacham, it blibes a din of a kli shares. Very interesting. Continues the Rabbeinu Yoin in the Mishnah. Cholamar b'dvarim. Sorry. Loya medrashu ha'ikar Eloham ma'aseh. Roitza loymar. Shelo yilamed v'yidrash ha'mitzvos la'acherim. Don't stam give drashas and teach other people. V'hu eina oisam. Okay, this is a big problem, especially I think nowadays. We'll talk about that in a second. You have to do it first. ואחר כך ילמדם לאחרים. And then he could teach to others. כמו שאומר רבנו זכרנו לברכה, נוים הדברים היוצאים מפי אויסיהם. I want to tell two zach, maybe one zach. We'll just do one zach. I was once zoiche to be chaperone, together with a group of mischaskim, bachrim that needed chizuk, and the yeshiva took the boys to Bnei Brak. Now, the head rebbe who organized the whole trip, it was unbelievable. It was usually if you take a group of boys to Bnei Brak, right? So the main trip would be, let's say, on an Erev Shabbos when you can bring your cameras and take pictures and stuff like that. That was not how it was done in this chaperone, and it was an incredible experience. The Rebbe told me, is like, I specifically scheduled this whole Shabbaton to take place on Shabbos. The one thing I don't want is that there should be a kitrug on the boys, on the yeshiva, from the Talmidei Chachamim with taking pictures and stuff like that. Yeah, the whole trip was on Shabbos. No electronics, nothing was allowed, nothing. So we just went, and we went from Gadol to Gadol. And this specific Talmid Chacham, Reb Moshe Lieber Shlita, from TJ at the time, he had a connection with Reb Elia Weintraub Zecharenu Levracha. Reb Elia Weintraub was a neighbor, is a goyin olam, but a makubal, and he was a neighbor of Reb Chaim Kanievsky. Zecharenu Levracha. And we went and we sat with him, and Reb Elia Weintraub knew English. He did know English, so he was able to talk to us in English. And we, packed into his house, little tiny house. It was like 40 plus guys, and the Rebbeim and all that kind of stuff. And for a good, I don't know, it had to have been 15, 20 minutes, maybe even a half an hour. He was talking to us about, being mechazik and how to grow in Torah. You have to, I remember him saying like this, you have to cut the strings. You can't be connected to all the garbage that you're connected to if you want to have a life of Torah. You have to just disconnect. And he did like this, and you have to disconnect. Cut the strings. No more. Just cut the strings. If it was Goyish music, whatever it was, just cut the strings. And that was the main message. And it was mamish during the afternoon. Nobody was allowed to take a nap that Shabbos. And it was, again, it was Bachram that weren't, that needed chizik. They didn't appreciate these things. And I remember coming back to the hotel where we were staying, and one of the, let's say, second-year Bachram who, still needed a tremendous amount of chizik, but he was coming back. He was erlich. He was growing. And I remember we were sitting down, and he was talking to the rabbi, and he's like, what was the big deal with this rabbi that we went to? I'm saying, like, you could have told us the same exact thing. During Second Day, he didn't say any big, Kabbalistic chidushim or something like that we needed him to tell it to us. And the Rebbe looked at him, and he looked at me, and he said, you know what, you're right. I could have said the same exact thing. But it's much more impactful to come from a person who actually did it. Someone who actually did it. A person who disconnected completely from Olam Hazeh. Totally disconnected from Olam Hazeh. And he became a Gadol B'Torah. He became a Gadol Ador. I could say it from today till tomorrow. I can give you a shir. We can go through Rabbeinu Yoina. But until we do it ourselves, we won't get anywhere. It's okay, fine. It's not as impactful. It's good, but it's not as impactful. And that really sheds light, and I want to talk about that for just another minute or two. The concept of avad. What is avad? People think avad is just a shmooze, Bershusa Yochid, A shmooze is like in front of the whole yeshiva. Avad is like a more smaller, laid-back matzav. The Rebbe's sitting down, and he's just saying the same thing he said over B'shmooze. He's saying it over, to a small group of guys. Or he's just, bringing you in to, to give you musar on, why you're missing davening and waking up late and stuff like that. It's not true. We're learning big concepts. We are learning important things, new things, many times. We need to come together as a group, as a vad, as a meeting, and realize two things. Number one, this thing is a great thing, and we are far from it. And we don't have a mahalach in it. It's not part of our lives. It's a beautiful thought, it's a great concept, but we don't act this way. And we have to figure out why we're not acting this way, and we have to make some sort of adjustment. We have to work together. And that's the concept of a vad. If you never experienced a real vad like that, So then get to know, Talmidim of Rav Olba Zecharna Levracha. Start reading Alei Shur. That's what he did. That's what he did. That's what his Talmidim are trying to do. To really, introduce new topics and then work on them for a week, for 2 weeks, for 10 weeks, for a month. We have to work. If we're not going to work, we're just going to be like these people that are a medrash ikr and not the maisa. And we'll never be like Rebbe Weintraub. It's never going to happen. Rebbe Weintraub worked on himself. He cut those strings. He disconnected from this world, and he became Rebbe Weintraub. And we can do the same thing, but it needs work. It can't just be every day, okay, next Mishnah, very nice. We have to now think about these things, and we have to, it's not about finishing. It's about remembering these topics and these things and making them a part of our lives and trying to be koine, one thing at a time, whatever comes our way, whatever is negeya to our personal life at that moment. We have to try to work on these things and be koine them and make them part of our personality, because it's not going to happen by itself. It's definitely not going to happen by itself. So let's go on to the last shtickle here. V'cholamar b'dvar mevi chet. Zeh ina b'divrei Torah medaber. This sentence is talking about divrei Torah. She'ein lo adam l'harbas dvarim ba'alocha. Ach sheyitain mitun el ha'machshava. V'yomer dvar b'mishka v'lo yimar roisam. Don't go quickly. Ki b'roi dvarim lo yachdal pasha. We, Rabbeinu Yonah brought that pasuk a few times already. V'yachshav ki adavar kachu v'yovi chet bo'iro. You're going to make a mistake in your psak if you do things quickly. You got to think it over. V'al kain eicharu l'daber davar zeh ad she'omru. Lo yamedrash hu ha'ikar el ha'maisa. Shehu me'inyan ha'torah lo yidea ki b'divrei Torah hu. It's talking about psak halacha. Af gam zois she'ein lefarish oisoi b'divrei ha'olam she'im kain ha'ilhem lismech oisoi etzav v'lo matzasi laguf toiv ela shtika she'i b'divrei ha'olam v'yomer miyad cholamar b'dvar mevi chet elavada b'divrei Torah omru k'mashi parashnu. Okay, so he's busy with a diuk. Why is this coming after lo yamedrash ikar ela maisa? It should have come after lo matzasi laguf toiv mishtika. Elamai, he's telling it to as it's a halacha in Divrei Torah, not only in Divrei Olam. Okay, that's enough for today. Everybody should have a wonderful day. Kol Tuv. Sorry it was so long.